I'm Stephanie, and let's talk books. So today I want to come on here and talk about how I'm progressing with one of my big reading goals for 2019. Now, in 2018, I set out to read just about everything that was written by Brandon Sanderson, and I did a really great job of achieving that goal. There are a couple of his works that are a little bit more difficult to get a hold of just because they're either being out of print or my library didn't have them. So I thought that this year I would tackle another really big project, and I decided on The Wheel of Time. So, some of those Brandon Sanderson books I didn't get to were the last 3 books of The Wheel of Time because, you kind of need to read the first ones before you read the ending. So those I had set aside to read this year. So I'm going to start out with just a little bit of background for those of you who might not be familiar with the series, and then we'll jump right into where I am, how it's going, and what I think about this series. So The Wheel of Time is written by Robert Jordan, and this is the first book, The Eye of the World. And the Wheel of Time series is an epic fantasy that centers around some very familiar plot points. We have a prophecy of the return of this great evil and a hero who is supposed to arise and defeat the great evil, and we have a band of companions that are going to come together to help him along this journey to defeat this great evil. Unfortunately, the last time the great evil was destroyed, he managed to taint the male half of the magic system. So now in this world, the only people who are able to use magic safely are women. Any men who tries to use the magic system go crazy, which isn't so great when our prophesied hero is going to be a male magic user. Now, The Wheel of Time spans a total of 14 books plus a sequel, and that's a lot. I have been mainly listening to these books on audiobook because my library does own the entire series on audiobook, so I've been borrowing that to listen to at work, which has been really great because these books are big, they're heavy, and they're definite door stoppers of a books. But I've also been picking up the hardback, so let me go ahead and show you which ones I've got. So we have book 1, Eye of the World. I'm missing 2, 3, and 4, but I do have 5 and 6. I've got book 7, which is the one I'm currently reading, and my library copy of book 8, which is up on deck. Missing 9, but I've got 10 and 11. Fortunately, I accidentally bought the smaller size of book 10, so I am still on the hunt for the large format hardback of book 10. I'm missing 12, which is the first of the 3 books that were finished by Brandon Sanderson after Robert Jordan passed away, but I do have 13 and 14. And then I also have the prequel, A New Spring, which is the tiniest of the lot. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm currently on book 7, which is right around the midpoint of this series. And I am right around page 600, so I'm almost finished with this book. And so far, I am really, really enjoying the series. So let's start out with some of the things that I'm really liking about the series, then I'll transition into a couple of critiques. So one of the things that I really like about this series is the world is big. The problems are big. The things that our characters have to deal with are big. For example, one of the things about this world that I love is that it actually takes a realistic amount of time to get from point A to point B when your characters are either traveling on foot or on horseback. It's not like everything was within a day or 2 or even a week's journey. It can take months to get between different cities and countries, and it gives the world this really big feel. I also really like the dynamic of having the magic system that has a male half and a female half. I think that's a really cool, interesting concept. There's a lot in the book that explores kind of the way that men and women are different in this world and how their magic is different, and also with that kind of added layer of knowing that the more our hero uses his magic, the more he's going to go insane. Everyone is really hoping that he saves the day, but also that he does it before he goes completely off his rocker. I also feel like this story is doing a great job of presenting our hero group with a lot of problems. Sometimes the opposition that characters face in a story don't really seem all that big or difficult, or they may only be one main problem. There's a lot of politics in the different countries as things are going wrong, as countries are getting taken over by other countries, as our main characters are kind of thrust into the political spotlight and have to learn to deal with this world that they weren't born into, that they're not used to. There are a lot of things that might seem on the surface level like, why did you put this in there? This seems really unnecessary. But if you think about the idea of a prophesied hero who's coming to save the entire world, they're actually quite realistic problems for him to run into, and so I really like that part of the book. Politics aren't always my favorite, so sometimes I do get a little bit lost if we have a super politicky section, but I also do appreciate that it's not just super easy for our hero Rand. Sorry, I don't think I've mentioned that our main character's name is Rand. His name is Rand, and he is supposed to save the world. But I love that things are difficult for Rand. He is the prophesied hero, and things are taking place, and he's growing, and he's making progress towards his goal, but he does have all of these roadblocks that he has to work against, while he's also trying to learn how to defeat this great evil. Alright, now on to a couple of negatives about this series. First off, it's super long. I mean, you guys saw, the books are really big, so it's definitely not a series for the faint of heart. Robert Jordan's writing style is very descriptive, and he's also very repetitive, so especially if you're reading these books back to back, there are things that can kind of get on your nerves or you really wish weren't included. You'll get a lot of skirt smoothing and braid pulling and crossing of the arms under the bosom. You kind of have to get used to it and start to ignore it. I've noticed that now that I'm on book 7, I've kind of just don't even register those things in my brain anymore because they're happening all the time. I know that those are things that women in this book do. And I also have found that it's really helpful for me to sometimes take a break between books, read some other stuff, and then come back to the series because it is a lot. And so if you are planning on reading the series, that might be something that you want to plan for in your TBR, to kind of have some things that are lighter, maybe some rereads in there, so that you can kind of give your brain a little bit of a Wheel of Time break. Another thing that I don't particularly like about this series is that I feel like all of the women, or almost all of the women in the books, have a very similar personality type, and it's one that really annoys me. There are a lot of female characters in the book, which is awesome, and a lot of them also have a lot of power and agency in their own lives and in the political system, and that is awesome. Unfortunately, a lot of them are very power hungry, manipulative, and catty. They think they know best, and there's not a lot of them that are humble, that are willing to, work together as a team and consider that somebody else, another woman maybe who isn't as powerful, or even a man, my goodness, might have an idea that might help with the problem. And one of the things that I wish that there had been more of a variety in kind of the types of women that Robert Jordan included in his book, which I think is unfortunate because he did come up with a lot of really interesting and different peoples and cultures and different parts of the world, and that world building is amazing. I just wish he had also applied it more to the women. For example, the Aes Sedai and the Wise Ones come off very similar to me as far as their attitude, as far as the way that they handle power and authority, the way that they treat men, the way that they treat each other. Now, there are definite differences in the cultures of these two groups of powerful women, but again, they're very power hungry and manipulative and catty, and they think men are all idiots. I thought that since those two cultures are so very different that they come from, that I wish that maybe we could have had a little bit of a difference in the type of woman that we see in those two groups of women. So overall, I am really enjoying this series. The story is really captivating enough, and I want to know more and what's going to happen, that I'm willing to work with even some of the things that kind of get on my nerves that I don't like about the story, to push through, to find out what happens to these characters. I find a lot of the male characters are actually a lot more interesting to me, and seeing them grow and develop has been really awesome. I've also appreciated seeing in some of the last couple of books some of the women having more character growth, and I'm excited for that, and I'm really hoping that some of these women are able to break out of kind of the traditional female mold for this world and become something different, something a little bit more likable and enjoyable. So like I said, I have been working through most of these on audiobook. I did read part of Lord of Chaos as a physical copy, but the rest of them I've been reading entirely on audiobooks. The audiobooks are narrated by Michael Kramer and Kate Redding, which is a duo that I absolutely love. They also narrate the Stormlight Archive books, so I am a big fan of them. So that's really great if you're thinking about picking up the audiobooks of them. I would highly recommend it. So now let's talk about my goal of reading the entire Wheel of Time series this year. Given that it's already October and I'm only on book 7, I don't think I'm going to make it. I had some things happen at work. In May, I switched to a new team. I was doing a lot of learning and a little bit of a different work than I had done before, and I wasn't able to pay attention, so I took a pretty long break in the middle of the year from this series and only just got back to it in September. I'm really hoping to be able to get through at least a few more of the Wheel of Time books before the end of the year and then wrap up the series in the beginning of 2020. So let me know down in the comment section below, have you read any of the Wheel of Time books, or do you have another very long epic series that you will love that you think I should check out? I'm still considering what big series I want to tackle in 2020, so I would love some recommendations. And until next time, bye.